Do you hear it? Beautiful. Listen closely to the anthem of your demise.
Through the dark veil of space and time. This is Warp Chatter.
Well, let's go ahead and get started. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Warp Chatter podcast. This is the podcast dedicated to talking about the Horus Heresy Legions digital card game, Horus Heresy lore, Warhammer 40,000, everything that this encompasses. This is the podcast by players, for players, and it's all inclusive. We've mentioned that several weeks now. I think we're continuing our inclusivity. Inclusivity? What's the word for that? Inclusiveness? Inclusiveness sounds better.
I don't even know. Also, I like the connotation of that. Makes it sound like we originally weren't, and we're just going to get really bad about it.
That's correct. Like, the whole first, 30 episodes, we were just like, no, we don't. Are you elderly? Get out. This is not a game for you.
It's a big
you would exclude yourself.
That's right. It's like, what? Are you of a particular faction persuasion? Get out. We don't. This is a game for just one type of people. No, that's not the case at all. If you play the game, if you like the lore, because we've even had players on who had stopped playing the game but still enjoy the Warhammer 40,000 setting. I mean, that's the whole point. It encompasses everything. We here in the Eye of Terror Studios encompass all space, time, and alignments.
Another word for space.
Are you chaotic neutral? How do you fall within that spectrum?
Like a true D&D player, I always bring chaotic evil to every table.
Okay. See, I'm more of a chaotic good.
Yeah, I was being sarcastic. If you bring chaotic evil to a table, you're an awful person.
You're going to ruin the game, like right out the gate. It's like, You guys meet at a tavern.
We're a 40K campaign. We're a 40K podcast, not campaign.
No, that's exactly. We're going to start off talking about D&D. No, this is a podcast by players for players. I'm your host, Scuff D. With me, as always, is the crab co-host Axel Manning.
Howdy, ho.
And we have got a player joining us, Automatic Jack.
What's up, guys?
Hello. So we are going to be talking about the word bears. Speaking of chaotic alignments and inclusiveness. They included demons in their ranks as well as cultists of all sorts. They're a equal opportunity employer. But we're going to be talking about
all.
They do, and they're undivided. So it's not even like, we're just Khorne. No, they're like, look, whatever you got is a chaos. We'll take it. It's cool here.
Yeah, and they don't care who you follow when you're in the group. If you want to go give your skulls to the Skull Throne, that's cool.
Yeah,
we're fine with that.
Lots of tentacles, no tentacles. You're welcome to the party.
Want tentacles, horns, wings, whatnot. It's all good. It's gonna fly.
If it's heresy of the highest order, we're cool with it.
So we're going to be talking about that at length, and the faction, our likes, our dislikes, where they're at, how they stand. Probably some lore bits in there quite a bit, because I actually, surprisingly, found myself enjoying the Wordbearer's Horus Heresy lore quite a bit. But before we get into that, I want to do player introductions. Automatic Jack, tell us about yourself.
Hey, so first off, thanks for having me on the podcast. Long-time fan.
Absolutely.
Got into Warhammer from Dawn of War.
That's a good one.
Oh man, I saw that intro cinematic. Still, in my opinion, one of the best intro cinematics ever made for a video game. The Dread stomps out of the fog and just mows down a bunch of orcs with the autocannon. Friggin' amazing.
That's so.
I'm not gonna lie. Just 10 minutes ago, I was doing a Chaos campaign on Dark Crusade.
Yeah. Oh my God. It holds up.
Plus, I play as a word bearers. Yeah. So
Dark Crusade was my favorite. That campaign had so much replayability. It was really fun.
Oh yeah, it's 10 times better than the base campaign. And that's saying a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Absolutely. So start off with Dawn of War. Got into the tabletop game a bit. Played Demon Hunters and Imperial Guard, and moved over for a while to Fantasy Battles. and played Warriors of Chaos over in Fantasy Battles. I kind of got out of the tabletop hobby after I bought a Hell Cannon model that had a full, like, 3/8 of an inch deviation between its halves. And I called up Games Workshop and I was like, is there a way that I can get a replacement? Because, it's like a $65 model. Mm-hmm. And they say, well, it's an issue with the production run, and they're kind of just all like that. So just use green stuff. Wow. And my opinion was soured at that point. So I didn't stop loving Warhammer. Still absolutely love both Fantasy Battles and 40K. For card games, I played Hearthstone for a while, and then was looking around for games to play on my phone. Stumbled across Legions. I hadn't read the books at that point. Now I'm about maybe 40, 45 books in. It's crazy saying it out loud. But, just really got into Legions that way.
Nice.
Oh, I believe it. There's a lot of books.
There is. I am about a third of the way through Born of Flame, which I think is like book 50 or 52. I could be wrong. It could be 49. But it's at the tail end. I think I've got about 4 books left in the Heresy part to go before I move to the Siege. And it's... a long time ago, I used to be able to read them when they came out, had the time, and salivate for the next one. And just life in general has not granted me that time anymore. So when I get the chance to sit down and read, it's not as much. So I'm behind. I used to be current. I'm still in it. I still read them all, and I still read them in order. But yeah, it's a chug.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
so you said you played Demon Hunters and Imperial Guard. As far as the Horus Heresy lore that you've been reading, is there a particular legion or faction that you kind of like the most?
Yeah, so I'll say I in the lore I love the Night Lords. Not hugely Conrad Kurz himself. I know he's kind of an edgy boy sometimes. The faction itself sometimes. But he also, I'll say this. I think he has a moderately more interesting, like, there's a reason that he's been driven insane. He is bombarded with these visions he can't control. Like, we think about what it would be like if you knew for an absolute fact that the future would be the worst possible hell imaginable. I mean, it would probably wreak some havoc on you. And he has the best line in the entire Horus Heresy books. When he calls Sanguinius a pompous fowl, which, I mean, I literally laughed out loud when I read that. It was delightful. But I love Sevatar. In those books. Oh my gosh, there's good stuff in there. I like Sevatar a lot too. Sevatar has a personality. I bounced off the Dark Angels books hard because a lot of the early Dark Angels books seem to be like, we have a quest, we must complete the quest for honor, we will slay the monster for honor and quests. And I just didn't really connect with me. But Sevatar is a sarcastic demigod of death, which I can like. He has entertaining things to say. Yeah, so I like the Night Lords. I don't play him at all, but I like the Night Lords.
I think Sevatar's charm is he is an unapologetic bastard. That's his thing.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Kurz is conflicted, and I mean you've got a variety of characters like that in the Night Lords, especially because of how they recruited, where they recruited from. But only a couple of characters really get the focus. You've got the Painted Count, who recently was added to the game. A lot of people dislike him. I actually thought he was a pretty decent, interesting character because his motivations, and everything that he kind of does to get his rise to power. I thought it was kind of neat to see that happen. And then you've got Sevatar, who is basically, he has a strange, I don't even want to say an honor system or honor code. He has his own rules, but he knows where he draws his own line. And at the same time, up until that, he doesn't care what you think at all. Like, it doesn't matter.
He's a loose cannon, but he's a damn good Space Marine.
Yep.
Now I'm imagining like an 80s to early 90s, like, cop show with Sevatar.
It's like, goddamn Sevatar, put down your badge and gun.
That's how he got the Red Gauntlet. That's how he got the Red Gauntlet.
You can't go out there butchering women and children.
Or rather, he's not butchering enough women and children, if it's the Night Lords.
That's probably it. You skipped a school bus again, Sevatar.
You cue the 80s saxophone, bah, 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 bah. He's like walking down the hallway and a shirtless scene that they would often do for gratuitous reasons.
Last episode, we ended on Columbo. We begin this one with 80s to 90s detective shows.
Yeah, it's like
Lethal
Weapon. Lethal Weapon at Sevatar, That's it's not necessarily word bearers, but I can see that taking off. Let's pitch that to GW.
Please, GW, we beg you.
This is what happened to Sevatar. This is what his like. It was like, whatever happened to Sevatar? Well, it turns out that he was recruited to,
He was the best Arbites we've ever seen.
Well, did you play any other card? You said you played Hearthstone. Had you played any of the other, like, Conquest or just way back when, like the Horus Heresy or Sabretooth card game? Or I guess that would have been before Dawn of War actually took place. So
one year before Dawn of War.
Yeah. I remember Dawn of War Winter Assault. Yeah, Dawn of War Winter Assault came with a promo for the Dark Millennium CCG. Or was it Dark Crusade? Dark Crusade did, yeah. Yeah, you got a promo card in there for the Dark Crusade, and that was like a tactic card. But
that's crazy.
At that time, the Dark Millennium CCG was kind of on its last legs, which is a shame because it was the third edition of the Sabretooth card game. It was really a better refinement of the first edition, and obviously included the 40K universe as opposed to the Horus Heresy universe, but it just was... It was time. It was time to fold.
It was time for it to die. It's natural. Card games can't live forever.
Right. They have to run their course.
Sadly. Well, especially when there's an IP,
Yeah. This one's doing good. It lasted longer than some people thought it would. Everyone keeps going. It's on its death throes. I don't think it is.
People were... I know, that's fine. Like, we could go back, and I think our first, 2 or 3 episodes, we've got people like, well, this game probably doesn't have too much time left. Like, that was, 45... plus weeks ago. Like, that was, almost a whole year ago, and yet here we are still kicking. Everguild says they've got at least 2 more expansions planned already, in addition to whatever else they're going to roll up past that. That's a whole another year's worth of content, so...
Yeah, I mean, when you... Oh, sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
When you hear Mr. Everguild talk, he seems like he is very enthusiastic about it. I mean, he's a PR guy, so he's supposed to, but, he... you can tell there's passion in the company for it. They seem to really like the IP, and I like what they're doing with it. I'm also a very new player to it. I only started in April of last year, so I missed a lot of the comings and goings.
Well,
what matters is you're a player.
That's the big thing. You didn't really miss anything. I mean, it's been the same ebb and flow. People complain about something being too strong and something not being strong enough. It just the titles change. That's all it is.
Well, Scuff, you got to remember, he did indeed miss the good old days of Secret Orders working on everything.
That was a good time. That was
not everything, but you can stack them.
You can stack the Secret Orders. Yeah, there were some fun game concepts, but nobody played Secret Orders because they were too busy playing Alphalarius and his 8 energy heroine and all the other fun stuff that was in there. Oh, those were the days. But you know what they weren't playing? You know what they weren't playing? Was the Word Bearers because they hadn't been released at that time.
Sadly.
That's right. They came out in Calth, right?
Yes.
Marines and somebody, sisters.
The Orphans of War.
Orphans of War. Sure.
Which was a surprise faction. The Word Bearers, obviously, their big thing was the demon hosts, which at the time was really oh wow, these are really cool. You can just upgrade your guys and give them these strange mutations that are given to give them terror and ward and flank and then they can get really strong and they can get they get additional boost for every one that they get. Then they kind of come out, and initially I think the only warlord who anybody played was Rom, because he does exactly what he does now. He was very easy to build. And some of the Word Bearers stuff wasn't where it is now, obviously. So it was why play with Word Bearers cards? Just play with Chaos cards and go from there. But they've been refined and retuned. They've gotten a couple patches in that time, and I think every time they kind of get them closer to a cohesive mark. And obviously, last week, Lorgar just got his Whispers nerfed, I would say significantly, but tragically, because that was really his his thing was to hit whispers with an awesome combo play, and now that awesome combo play just means that you might get your whispers at 10 energy, or at 8 if you're lucky, and you have to have stuff survive. So it's harder for Lorgar again. But the Warlords are not bad. They all have a unique play style how they play. One does the ROM thing, then you've got Argotal, who's just kind of your Loken, basically.
Nowadays.
Yeah, you've got Zardu Layak with the splash damage. You've got, and then he's got his little special card, his Atham, and then you throw down the Dark Blessing combo. And you've got Erebus, who does his portal magic, which is the only character in the game who has an ability like that too. So,
it's very unique.
Yeah, they've got a lot of unique things going for them, and I still like the mutations, but I think the mutations.
Demon Host.
The Demon Host. Yeah,
mutations are better.
That's what I was going to say. The Demon Host I still like, but once the mutations came out, they lost a lot of shine because they are just outclassed by the Runestorm mutations by far.
I do like the Runestorm mutations, not Runestorm mutation. I do like them though. Wordbearer Demon Host, the way it steam snowballs the minute you hit all 5.
Yes.
It's boom, 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 boom. And some troops, that's amazing. Like a Torgo squad that has can't act again. Mm-hmm. Beautiful.
Yeah, they get really strong, really buffed. And then I personally thought it was really cool to see the card frame transform. That was like
yeah.
Like, because you'd see you'd see the Unstoppable if you play like Mark of Zeech or something. Like, it gains wings, but these get wings. These get hooves. They get the weird like claw horn things going on, and that was pretty cool. So I still like it. I don't know if it's their main thing anymore though. Like, they have it.
No.
But it doesn't feel like it's their main thing anymore. It feels like their main thing really has shifted to that hybrid between infantry and Astartes and,
demons, I guess. I'm going to be honest with you, Scuff.
Yeah.
They don't really have an identity anymore. It's kind of weird.
It feels like they don't, right? Like, and because they can do a very similar build. You throw in 2 Khazdraks. Boom. There you go. That's Khazdraks and Cultists. Zesigal Squad. And Khazrak is a pinch in a variety of swarm decks, so they don't feel...
Now, Scuff, you don't know how much you just hurt me by saying Khazrak, because that card is just a better version of a pre-existing Wordbearer card, and it hurts.
Yeah.
Diabolus Vol is just completely steamrolled by it.
Yep. And I really used to love getting a couple Diabolus Vols out, and then watching the fireworks show go. Where like one thing would die and he'd bless like 4 or 5 troops with like a shower of sparks, and then the other one. It was just cool to see. It was like neat animation, but Khazrak does it faster and bloodier, I guess. But because
everybody and with enemies and
but because he's a neutral, he's like, throw him in anything. Why not? Like, he doesn't have to be more bears. The fact that he's a demon, I guess, works fluff wise, but it's not, like you said. It doesn't feel word-bearery.
No. It's a shame, but us word-bearers, we took a hit. I will say us, because I have too much word-bearer playtime under my belt. Well, it's a fun legion.
It's fun, and I mean, you can meme with them if you want. You can go the big old clunky, Dark Martyr, and then you hit you get the double Dark Blessing and just kind of like 8 energy, make an unstoppable beast, or you could go the cultist route and have the Jadimus squads or the Sethalin squad, or you get the Malnor veterans. Those are the 6/6 guys that make all your infantry +1/+1 in front lines, which is pretty nice.
Especially if you, back before Arcology died, that was a fun combo.
Well, yes. Yeah, with Arcology now, 6 energy and you throw down some displaced civilians. And hey, why not? But I don't know. I mean, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say the kind of fun meme thing is, I mean, I think that's what they're really struggling with. They're fundamentally a very random faction. They don't have, when we contrast the mutation mechanic for Ruinstorm with the Demon Host mechanic on Wordbearers, the big difference is choice and mutations. I mained Orbaks for a long time, and mutations are, in and of themselves, not that much better than Demon Host upgrades, but you can choose which ones you get, which is enormously important. Even when you're, choosing only 3 out of however many, 8, whatever there are, that takes so much more randomness out of the game. It puts in so much more sort of planning and foresight when, your demon host is always going to be inherently random. It screws Erebus sometimes when, you need that ward or you need that survivor on your portal, and instead you get the flank one, which does literally nothing. It gives them unstoppable, but
yeah, for Erebus builds like the worst ones. Like, that's not going to do anything for me. Thanks.
And then on top of that, you have a lot of troops or tactics that create random lesser demons. And demons themselves are sort of, they're kind of a grab bag of utility.
There are so many bad ones, but then some really good ones.
Yeah, absolutely. And even the good ones can sometimes, if your plan is to play certain cards pretty near your curve or cards and abilities, and then you get a really good demon, but you can't play it because it's going to give you maintenance 3 or 2 with Lorgar. So I don't know. I think that randomness, it works in a lot of ways. It works thematically, certainly, because they're, the ultimate chaos faction, but they're, other than, I guess, literally the chaos faction. But I feel like that's the biggest factor limiting their competitive potential.
I think
100%.
Yeah, I think that's spot on. I feel, and I think, in general, I think every guild does a really good job of capturing the thematics for every faction, and I don't think that's any exception with the Wordbearers. I think they really nailed the hybrid of the cultists and the Astartes, the selling, the mutations, the whole just the fact that you can actually have Astartes demon hybrids or demon vehicles, was kind of a unique thing. But then on top of that, the way they work, because they're demons, they get benefits for cards that would boost demons, and you can include other demons in your deck if you want to go one step further, or you can go the other way. It's that whole chaos encompassment, but it's not just hard, to build a deck with them, because you can. It's complicated because there's some cards just like, man, that's just a really good card. Why would I want to put it? Because I'm not running too many Astartes, so I guess I'll take this one out and I'll put this one in because I'm going more of the infantry build, and then you kind of tweak it. But then on top of that, a lot of the benefit of those boosts, like you said, they're random. Whether it is the demon host, which is always gives you the one that you don't want, and then every time it's my opponent, they get Survivor Award, I swear. But
Scuff.
Yeah.
Flashback to BNL.
That BNL.
Real dirty with
that was so bad. That was so bad. Makes me sour every time. But
for the folks at home, and I don't know if you uploaded that one, I got Survivor and Ward every demon host.
Yes, and it was like 4 or 5 in a row. I was like, come on, just one where you don't get Survivor demon host right out the gate. But that's what they do. Everything is random, and then the things that aren't random, it's basically just a stat buff. It's just like a +1/+1, but their demons that they're creating are random. The demon hosts that they create are random. Even some of the abilities where it's just kind of like Zardulek, his damage is random, so you can't really rely on it necessarily. You can't guarantee which troop or which infantry is going to be sacrificed for some of these troops. It's kind of a weird toss-up grab bag. So while you can putting together a deck is possible and it's complex, it's still even harder to actually execute because sometimes those pieces get on the board and they don't do what you want them to do, and that is where things fall apart.
Oh yeah, and more often than not, they won't. It's such an RNG heavy faction, and in the worst ways possible. I still love it.
Oh, I know. See, and that's the thing. I feel bad. I don't want to dump on the word bearers. I love the word bearers. I love the fact that, like you mentioned, Erebus has the only mechanic of his kind in the entire game.
Yeah,
which isn't properly explained in game.
No,
it upsets me so much.
Yeah,
a new player. I want using just in-game tools, except fighting him or playing as him. I want someone to show me what he does. You can't.
It was like,
yes, but he creates a summoning rift.
What does that
What's
do?
the summoning
He creates
rift?
a summoning rift.
Exactly.
What's the summoning rift?
It summons. It's a rift.
He makes a very valid point. I now understand completely.
Well, and then on top of that, because there were people for a long time after they came out, I was like, how does Erebus work? Because if you're a new player, well, I guess I'll just keep doing the summoning rift. What's happening? Okay, it's getting stronger. But then you find out, wait a minute. if I want to release it, I actually have to stop putting anything into it, and then I don't even get it this turn. I have to use that next turn and hope that it survives. So it's really there's a steep learning curve to playing Erebus for sure, because
so many new players, they fall into the trap of I gotta buff it every turn no matter what till it's a 15-15.
Right.
The folks at home, don't do that. Just don't.
No, then you're like, okay,
I'm cutting.
Window of the week. That's what's going to happen. It's
Yep, and I'm cutting a little ahead before we actually get to the Warlords. But here's a tip for Erebus, Erebus. It's very, very simple. If it gets Survivor Award when you use it for the first time at 5-5, drop it. If it doesn't, drop it at 7-7, no matter what it is.
Yep.
It ain't worth going past it.
Yep. As that 7-7 body is all that'll it'll draw some heat at the very least. And that's probably as best as you're going to get. Once you get to that point, you're not going to get another one that gets that high. I had a deck for a while, and I think my Erebus deck, I think with the change to Astral Incursion, I can't quite do it the same way that it used to, but it was an Astral Incursion Erebus, and it would basically just pull Marigal Dreadnought, and then basically by the time I could play the reduced cost Marigal Dreadnought at 5, now at 6, because it costs one energy more, I would then release the Warp Rift, so then I would basically have 2 fat stacked units, typically at least one with Ward, sometimes both, and it was just a fun meme thing to do. It was not reliable at all, and if I didn't get Astral Incursion, or I didn't get my Ward or Survivor, but Erebus folds pretty hard. But it's just kind of fun to do, and it's one of the few decks I've actually had more success with Marigal than anything else, which, I mean, that's a fat unit. It's a shame it doesn't get seen more, but at the same time, I'm kind of glad it doesn't.
It's a bait.
Yeah.
It costs so much you want to play it, but at 10 energy as the word bearers, you either win or you lose. Like, there's no card you can play that saves you.
Yeah. Well,
I was going to say, they do have a really big front line.
They have, the Sword Talgron is a nice front line, but I mean, also, at 10 energy, if you've got a troop on the board, you can play Dark Blessing 5 times.
And win.
Yeah.
And win.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep, so it's like...
It's funny you mentioned, when you mentioned Win of the Week, one thing that kills me about the Word Bearers is the fact that Terran Reality does not, unless they changed it since I played it, Terran Reality doesn't work the same way as Win of the Week.
No, you need a body. Yep.
Yeah, you have to have a body.
Yep.
Win of the Week, I think, is the only one that doesn't need a body to work.
That's correct.
So I know there's a Sister the Silence one, there's a World Eater one, there's a Custodes one, there's the Word Bearer Return to Deck, and they all require a body.
I'm the last person who would ever suggest a nerf to the Iron Hands, because God bless them. I mean, the Iron Hands are...
God bless
really,
the Iron Hand players.
They're riding the struggle bus. But
they do, and most of them turn on each other so quickly. It's scary.
It's true. There's a lot of infighting there. But Terran Reality is I don't know, when I see the Winnows coming out, I kind of wonder if maybe a little easy buff for them, because they don't have a lot of hard removal. They have Balthamir's Sword, which is a hard 7 cost. It's not like the 7 cost removal for Ruinstorm there. War Master's Deceit gives you a copy of whatever you're removing, so you remove the Raven or whatever, and then you get a Raven to use.
I guess the good part about it is it stuns. I think is it Warlord or adjacent? I always get it
just
in the
Warlord.
Yeah.
Okay, I always get it and the Space Wolves mixed up because it's so similar.
I love how the front of that ship, if you take a look at the artwork, it's just like a giant purity seal, like just drifting in space at the prow.
It's intimidating. Yeah. It's intimidating.
It's like, wait, there's no structural integrity there. It's just a bunch of paper on their ship hull. What?
Streaming in the non-existent atmosphere.
Yeah, streaming in the void. Like in space, there's inertia, I suppose. I don't know. I don't think there would be. I mean, you can move without the inertia actually affecting the paper. But I just think that's funny. Nah, I mean, in terms of a 40k, I will say I dislike the Word Bearers immensely. In the same way that I dislike the Ultramarines, I feel like they are, and they are. That's their role. They're the vanilla. They're the vanilla bad guys.
How dare you?
My first game.
They are the stormtroopers of 40k.
They are. They're just like, hey, we need a chaos faction. It's the Word Bearers because there's so many of them and they're just chaosy. My very first 40k tabletop game against the Word Bearers was not pleasant at all because at the time, their whole thing was they could use demons as troops, and my opponent had no problem having a bunch of bloodthirsters or bloodletters as his troops, which were had like the 3+ armor, 4+ invulnerable save, power weapons, and just like obliterate things. I was like, wow, that's weird. You're playing a Space Marine army, but you've only got like 2 Space Marines in your army. That's really strange. And I was kind of sour on that from the get-go in 40K. But the 30K lore for them, I really liked. I really liked, First Heretic, and I've said it before with the Horus Heresy stuff. I think the best books put a spin on what you thought you knew, or they turn something that you thought you were going to like or dislike and make it likable. And Aaron Dembski-Bowden did a fantastic job with the Word Bearers and First Heretic.
I agree. That's definitely one of the best books in my opinion.
Yeah, it's at the top. I mean, because it makes their motivations make sense. The characters that are presented there, Argel Tal is just a great character, and you get an understanding even for Lorgar, where he becomes a prophet lost, where his gods denied him, and his very purpose is to be a prophet. And if he can't prophet for a god that isn't a god, then he has to find a god that he can profit for. Otherwise, he has no purpose. Otherwise, what was the point of anything in his entire life? So, he takes that whole pilgrimage with the faction. It just was a really good kickoff, and I didn't expect it to be for that faction. I was like, all right, let's see, that Erebus is already a fucking chaos dude, so I mean, obviously this faction is already chaos worshippers, and right off the bat, it's like, this is before that happens. Here's how they get to that path. Yeah, Erebus is a bad guy, but the whole Legion wasn't. And how did they move to that?
Yeah, and it's really good.
Yeah.
They're one of the most neat factions, in my opinion, at least.
Yeah,
obviously.
And I mean, and to make another lore point, I mean, the more time you spend, Lorgar wrote both sides of the entire premise of 40K. He wrote the book. Do you believe in the Emperor as the god?
To be fair, he wrote the original, but he didn't write the current version. The current version is still written by a word bearer, though. It's written by the Anchorite. He's a big old dreadnought they have hidden under the ground, in case no one knows about that. He wrote the current 40K.
He's the dreadnought version of the Lectitio Divinatus. It's like the King James version of the Bible.
Yeah, the Anchorite is a great character in 40K. He's one of the few. I think he's one of like 3 loyalist word bearers, but he's the only one still alive. And the word bearers show up to rescue him, and he goes, "I don't need rescuing," and he just shoots him.
Nice.
Got an autocannon attachment on one arm and just a quill pen on the other one.
That's it. You go to check in at any 40K motel, and you can guarantee that there's going to be a copy of Lectitio Divinatus in the cabinet there.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's illegal to not pray to the Emperor.
That's right.
Obviously.
That's right. And then he goes and writes the Book of Lorgar, which becomes the other side of the coin. And it's just really interesting because this single person created 2 faiths that basically drive the entire premise. Not necessarily the Crusade, because there's Crusade. There's some heresy there involved, but I mean it goes a little bit more further with the patricide or the fratricide, and bitter sore daddy issues that some of the Primarchs have. But when you get into ultimately most traitor Marines and in 40K that fall to chaos are kind of following the lines that he wrote. But before that, they were reading or they were following the faith of the Emperor that he also wrote. It's really, I always think that's kind of an interesting point.
Yeah, he wrote both sides, and they rallied to it.
He's got the nice, I mean, he is both a hugely inspiring prophet type guy, but then has all these like personal weaknesses. I mean, he sends Argel Tal into the Eye of Terror with a bunch of other Space Marines and doesn't go himself.
Right.
Like, he's the way, he's talking about how he wants all this esoteric knowledge and he'll do anything to get it. And then he actually shows up and he's like, all right, well, you guys check it out for me. Tell me what it's like in there.
Let me know how it goes. You're my favorite son. I love you. I hope you make it back. I can't take this journey with you, but, blessed be unto thee. And And then eventually, I mean, he does make that journey himself after he's seen that, like, okay, all right, this is what I want to do. But yeah, it is interesting. Like he talks the game, but he's conflicted because he still is testing his faith. At that point, he's been led to this point. Erebus is kind of like coaxed him, like, hey, I've heard that this is the place to go, but he has to see it before he can believe it. But once he believes, then he's everything. It's like he just dives into it wholeheartedly.
He was really just waiting for a reason to follow chaos. He wanted to know if the pros outweighed the cons, and in his opinion, they did. Think about it, crab claws.
It's interesting that the Lorgar transfigured artwork that we have in the game is not the Lorgar demon host or demon prince that you get in 40k, where he's actually full on. He's got like the horns on his head and he's all bulked up, and I like it. I like the fact that you get kind of more of a dark, brooding Lorgar in the artwork, not quite demon princey, but I just thought that was interesting. I'm just looking at the artwork right now at the Lorgar transfigured. He's just got that stare.
It's pretty good.
Yeah. But yeah, as far as warlords go, we talked a little bit about Erebus. We talked a little bit about Lorgar. Haven't talked much about Argyltal or Zardu, but I mean, with as far as the warlords go, who would you say is your favorite? Whether it be playstyle or just Mimi, whichever one you kind of play the most.
All right. Well, favorite's got to go to Argyltal no matter what. I got like 1,000 games of that damn dude, and he brought me to Terra. He ain't as good as he used to be, and not to say much has changed about him, but that's just because he's a 30 HP and he's not Rom. We didn't even cover Rom. Rom's a Chaos Warlord. Tell me otherwise, you're wrong. But I gotta give it to Zardu as my current muse, because Lorgar is unplayable. But at least Zardu Leylak has that really cool blade. Of course, it's very RNG based. What's your take, AJ?
So I only have Erebus and Argyltal, and I don't know what it is. I have never been able to make round work very. Now, to be fair, I also do not have a ton of Word Bearers cards. So I played a fair amount of Erebus games in practice mode. I have never really messed around with them much in ranked. But I enjoy Erebus's playstyle. I think it's making that threat, like making your opponent watch that giant threat build up that they can do absolutely nothing about, and they know they're going to have to address it. It makes them kind of panic. They have to kill you. You got a little more health. You got the 35. He has all the other Word Bearers tools, and if you can get to a point where you're kind of at more or less parity with them, going into energy turn 6, energy turn 7, and you've got that thing on the board and it's getting beefy, you can drop it and do some work. And now it does with the 2 turns to come out. It's kind of I'm sort of used to thinking that way, I guess, because I played like I said, a ton of corebacks, so I was constantly poisoning things and just sort of planning for a
the
turn
menace of
out.
Word Bearer players.
Yeah.
Quarterbacks.
Yes, he is. He eats Word Bearer. Any faction that's going to put a lot of little things on the board.
Or like, I've got Ward. It doesn't matter. You're dead.
Yeah, does not matter. But I really enjoy Erebus's playstyle, and I was watching Vapix play his he played a series of like low to mid Terra games with Erebus pretty recently on YouTube. Those were really instructive and interesting to see. I think if I had a couple more of the cards, I think the only legendary I have for him right now is Sore Backball, who is great and really hilarious. I mean, you can get a stick combo off with them in the first couple turns. I mean, when you just, when they don't see it coming and they leave your board alone, never leave a Word Bearer's board alone.
No.
If they leave your board alone and you just drop Sword Backball and sacrifice everything in the face, and then suddenly your whole board is spawn and it's energy turn 4, that is a brutal combo.
Yeah,
folks at home, just kill the board unless I'm playing the Word Bearer and just leave it be.
Yeah, if I see a turn 1 Zesticle squad, I'm like, okay. Something's gonna die, and if I'm lucky, I might be able to bait you with another one, or like have a tactic or something and kill 2, because you just wouldn't play that if you don't have something to follow it up with. Some people do just to put bodies on the board, but typically it's like, if you see the Zesticle squad hit, next turn it's going to be Sword Backpaw, and there's going to be some warp spawns coming.
I think with the troops that the word bearers have that destroy a friendly infantry, and there are a lot of them, I think that it should be able to destroy a friendly Astartes also. Because you have a lot of these times when, like the Zesigal squad, they kill off the 2 zealots, and then you're left with a 2/2 that maybe you can warp rift back into your deck, but or not warp rift, Terran reality. But I think there are times when you have that one little guy left over, maybe trigger some of the sacrifice. They have a couple sacrifice cards. Maybe it'd be something to look at. I don't know. I'm way too new at this to make good balance changes. But I think.
Well, you're not wrong though. They definitely do need some love because they're kind of lacking in that department.
Yeah, they just have a weird mix. They have a weird mix of cards.
Right now.
They feel like it. They play like it. They have things that synergize to me in a strange way. They have cards that give their infantry extra health, but kind of one of the big things is you don't need your infantry to have extra health. You don't need your infantry to have frontline like Malner Veterans gives them. Most of the infantry, not literally all of it, but most of the infantry is there so you can Ashen Circle them and go for a big hit and then a sacrifice on top of that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. When I see the cards that kind of seem to counteract, like you mentioned earlier, the different little play styles that are all sort of lumped together into the clay of the Word Bearer's deck.
The really shitty Play-Doh project.
Lots of horns and teeth and all kinds of stuff in there.
Well, I think with that too, because the whole thing is like, yeah, it doesn't all play together. It's an odd. I mean, it's a little bit more synergistic than the old Night Lords were, but there are pieces where it's like, okay, and then what? Like, that's the whole point of this deck, is to have a bunch of troops that are going to die. And that's great to buff them, but then some of the best cards that actually do something with that are outside of the faction. We talked about Kazdrak. You've also got the Chaos, what's her name? The epic cultist leader.
Acleon Wordsinger?
Yeah, Acleon Wordsinger. Or you just using the Secretary Axiarch from the Mechanicum, giving all your infantry +1 attack. You've got better tools there within the faction, or outside of the faction. In the faction, you've got the Astartes, that's great. You've got some stuff, but then you've got like cards like Secret Devotion, which is like, all right, I get a bunch of cultists, but they don't have frontline. They are low cost, 2-cost frontline, so they're not even like any sort of cultists. Whereas the Ornithos Barge, being a legendary at this point now, can generate frontline troops as high as 6 cost, pretty significant frontline troops to boot. And this is just a 5 energy that's going to get you a bunch of 2-cost cultists.
Right. I think that Secret Devotion is arguably one of the worst cards in their faction. I know that generating cultists, sure, but like generating cultists for 5 energy and you generate them into a full enemy board.
Yeah.
Like, oh great, the enemy has a big board up that may well have abilities that trigger when your troops die.
Yeah. The only good way you can use it. The only good way to use it is if you can also wipe their board, which frankly, I don't think is even possible on the same turn you play that 9 times.
You'd have to get a Camille that did the work, and if that's the point, I mean, it's a really odd combo. I think that, they've got some good stuff, but they just have some weird stuff where it's like, if there was 2 other cards in the faction that supported this build, you could go with it. But there's not. Like Erebus doesn't have any cards directly, and obviously, to be fair, he's a one. The Warp Rift is a one thing. You can't just build a bunch of support cards for that specifically. But as far as like support cards go in the faction for him, the best you could say might be Fanatical Zeal to give him some health and give him a troop on the board. And then the rest of it is just kind of however you put together your deck, whether it's troops or tactics, or, there's nothing in there directly that, like, heals your warlord, or protects your warlord, other than just your standard bodies that are distractions. And, like I said, the mutations or the demon hosts are nice, but they're not, none of them give frontline. None of them give frontline, and none of them by themselves give increased attack. So there's nothing better than like, all right, I got Demon Host on this 2/2, who is now a 2/2 with flank. That's it. there's
or
no
a 2/2 with terror.
Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
Technically, one gives them attack because muscles counts, but I don't count it.
You got to get to that. You got to play several. You got to play like 5 others before you finally get the muscles. So it doesn't. You're not even going to get that. So it's weird. It's like it's just an odd, eclectic mix. Some of the times you can see the combos, but the combos are always the same. Like I said, Sword Backpaw, that's great. Ashen Circle, that's great. Dark Blessing. Those are the 3 go-to cards you're going to see, and they're going to combo if they've got the right bodies to stick. Everything else is getting there or, prolonging the game for your opponent to get that point. Dark Martyr's fantastic card. The Dark Brethren, Jadam Squad, those are great cards, but they're really, the distraction. If they stick, then they can help you with the combo. If they don't, they're just a speed bump for you to get to the combo.
Exactly.
I mean, getting to the Warlords. Yeah, getting to the Warlords for me. I think with the change to drilling site recently, I think Erebus kind of lost a very, very, very helpful tool. A lot of Warlords who would use that drilling site to use their ability as well as play a troop on curve. With the change to drilling site, they no longer have that option. And for him, that was really strong. I really had fun playing Lorgar and Argyltal when I played them. I think all around, I like Zardu the best because I like Warlords with splash abilities. And even though it's a random, as far as the damage wide, just having that inherent threat to anybody who wants to put down stealth troops at 2 health or, whatever, or anybody who's playing Defenders of Caliban. That's just such a great intimidating factor. It's like,
that faction is just good against Defenders of Caliban in general.
Yeah,
you can play your Caliban's heart, but I'm going to play
Destiny's Hand. Yeah, exactly. So I tend to defer to Zardu Layak. Now he's no Cor Pharaon. I feel like we should mention Cor Pharaon just to say that we don't have him.
And I don't want us to have him.
But
I
at
want
this
us to get
point,
Merrick instead.
Was he an event warlord?
He was. Yes.
He got slaughtered though against Zardu.
Yeah, you missed it. So
rightfully,
Cor Pharaon had low initiative at 35 health, and for 2 energy, he would put in a random cost cultist of 2 cost or less. That was it. I mean, he was
not
basically,
bad by any means.
And at the time, a lot of the cards in the Wordbearers pool, as they are now, are not what they were. So it was a very reliable way to get those infantry troops to do your sacrificial stuff, which was nice. But then the faction got a rework and a buff after we lost him. Like there was an event was like choose Zardu or Cor, and Cor lost out. We got Zardu. A lot of people still won't forget that.
Sure.
I haven't, but it's not necessarily a bitter thing. I do think he's a very relevant character, but I do agree. Axel, Barrack, and Athuzda, that's just an awesome Wordbearers character. I don't know if we're
so cool.
I would rather see him, honestly, as the 5th Warlord for the Orphans of War, but...
I still wouldn't even label him as an Orphan of War, because every time he shows up in one of their stories, he's killing them.
Well, yeah, but if you look at the Orphans of War, not all of them are loyal. Most of them are. The Warlords are, but, technically, he is a Astartes who doesn't really want to be part of the Legion he's in.
No. Well, last time we saw him, he left going, and now I'll kill Lorgar.
Right, now that's it. Yeah, that doesn't happen.
Oh, right.
Which, spoiler alert, guys, for the folks at home, Lorgar doesn't die during the heresy. I know, shocker.
Or probably ever.
Yeah, so, you can only surmise what happened with his mission.
Exactly. He's leading their chapter or legion right now, the Wordbearers, so he's definitely not dead. Someone fucked up.
Yep. But, so, I think we'll see Cor Pharaon likely as the 5th Warlord for the Wordbearers, but we don't have him yet. And I think when we do get him, he's going to have a change to his ability or a special card or something, because he has... Yeah, the faction has evolved where they really don't need what he offered. And
that said, though, with the mission, it seems like what you described would perhaps synergize at least somewhat well with the mission in that.
Yeah.
It makes it a lot easier.
That's possible.
Not enough for it to matter, though. That's a key part with their mission. We didn't even cover their mission, but I'm gonna go on a tangent on it real quick if you don't mind, Scott.
Yeah, go for it.
Their mission. Okay, for the folks at home, your mission is you have to kill another one of your troops with another troop of your own. So you have to use like a rally sacrifice effect or Gorlem Squad's Relentless, something that sacrifice is kind of a part of the word bearers, but not a big enough to matter or big enough feature. And that card itself, it's hard to trigger, and then the reward punishes you for triggering it. It's put in play a lesser demon resolution. The issue with all those demons, it kills your mana or energy. And none of them are good at end of turn. The one lesser demon you would love to get is Seducers, but that doesn't work as a resolution because then that's just a 6/4.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe the 5/3 frontline.
5/3 frontline. He's good, and Ravengers are good. That's it. It's a useless reward that only works on Lorgar, and Lorgar can't play it because it's a mission and he needs his starting cards. I'm angry. It hurts my heart. Everguild, please give us some love. We deserve it.
Yeah, maybe something with Demon Host. I mean, like giving out Demon Hosts like at the start of your turn.
Honestly,
I don't know.
That's where I would have thought that they were going to go because they've already got that built in. And, give Demon Host 6 times. I mean, that might be too easy for Lorgar. But for...
Yeah, as a trigger.
Yeah, but for the other warlords, like that would be his build, right? Because the whole point is like he's kind of, especially him taking the nerf, he's kind of lost one build, but if he's got a mission build, okay, then that's fine. Whereas Demon Host, like, I guess Erebus could technically give Demon Host. Zardu certainly can. You've got a couple troops who have Rally Demon Host, so I mean, there would be ways to get it. But yeah, they didn't go that route at all, which was surprising. It's thematic, but I was surprised.
Thematic doesn't always mean good.
That's true.
Oh, no.
Usually it does not. I've seen very few thematic cards that are like, that's a good card. And it's thematic.
Erebus' ability. All his incomprehensible ability is both thematic and fairly good.
Zardu's ability makes sense when you remember that he's an Ashen Circle, so he is just burning random things.
I am going to mention here, for those who don't know, Zardu's artwork is incomprehensible, how he's holding that staff. However,
okay, what do you mean by this?
I got to remind you, take a look at his hand, how he's holding his staff.
All right.
However,
I just want to say, because his art is just a grab of his model, so they might have just fucked up his model.
They really did. The alt art for Erebus, which sadly is not in the alt cards collection display, unlike the Lorgar alt art, the alt art for Erebus is much better, and they did a better job where he actually is holding the staff with his fingers.
You don't need to hold the staff with your hands. Sometimes you use the psychic powers of your
right.
mind.
It somehow sticks to the inside of your wrist is what this looks like. But just take a look. If you're listening, take a pause, take a look at the Erebus art, and just zoom in on his grip or lack of on his Crozius Arcanum. If even that's what that is.
In his defense, Scuff, there's a high chance that he's doing some psychic bullshit with it, so it's floating. High chance.
High chance of BS is what it is.
High chance of psychic bullshit.
They could use the extra card words that they saved on his, small description of summoning rifts to explain how he is actually holding rifts.
And the thing is, I mean, it's not a bad picture except for that. Like, the rest of the artwork is really good, but every time I just gravitate right to the center of that picture, it's like...
I'm going to be honest with you, I've never noticed that till now, and it hurts to see. I do want to point out... I do want to point out, psychic bullshit. When they cast their spells, they usually let that thing float. That's not what's happening there.
No, it's weird... It's
all I'm going to see from now on.
Yeah. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. If anything, if I've helped spread the wisdom to several of you today, then I've done my job. But yeah, sadly, like the alt art for Erebus is not in the gallery here, which is weird. But he actually they fixed that where he's actually holding it, with a better grip, and it's very visible. It's like they put it there so you could see, like, hey, we fixed this issue with the art. Like, in case you... Like, it might as well have had his other hand, like, pointing to his one hand, like, see, I'm holding it. Like, it was how prominent it was.
Which is what you really wanted, Scuff. That's all that mattered with this art change.
Listen, if you're going to do alt art, it better be spot on, Sevatar. I'm just saying. Where
for the folks at home, he ain't got red gauntlets.
Yeah, where'd his red?
Oh no, they forgot the gauntlets.
His gauntlets aren't red, and there's that bit of lore in the game too. That's just like, and then I saw the alt. I'm like, that's really good. And then I'm like, where's the red? Fired. Great art. It's really good art, but you gotta get those details, man. Gotta get those
the gauntlets
details.
are important. It's kind of his main character trait, if I'm being honest.
It looks flashy. It looks flashy.
It's an appropriately great alt art. But
yeah.
This just means I'm going to have to spend the rest of the night after this podcast going through the art for every card and noticing all the weird stuff.
Well, here's some weird parts.
You condemned me to.
Here's one you're not going to like. Sor Talgron, right? And what's the 7E epic troop for word bearers? I forget its name. It's so useless.
The Dark
Martyr?
Captain. Oh, you're talking about
No, not Dark Martyr. I said epic.
You're talking about the Captain Apostle.
Yeah,
that's the same person.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that's Sor when he was loyal, and then he gets twisted and he becomes the Captain Apostle.
Yeah, that's the same card.
Yeah.
Also, another one you'll like, Abominable Intelligence and Kaban Machine are the exact same art.
That is
correct. That one I knew. It's the same. Depictions of the same thing.
Yeah, that's what I meant to say. It's not exactly the same, but yeah.
Well, what's interesting too. A lot of stuff in the first expansion are actual. Like if you actually look at it, they're like digital rendered images of the models. Like not like the alt arts where it's like, oh yeah, they took the model pose and they made it into a thing. Like it's straight up the model.
Oh yeah,
it's the tabletop model. Like the Assad Chimera. If you take a look at it, that's just a really nice shot of a Chimera model on the tabletop. You know, that's a 6 energy Imperial Army card. There's a few of them like that where it's like that's just like Lernia Hydra. It looks like from afar, it looks like it's art, but if you actually look at it, you're like, that's just a nice shot with some decent lighting of an actual tabletop model.
That's fascinating.
You know, you do it.
It's not bad to do. It's smart.
Yeah. You do it works, and it looked good. I'm not going to complain. I mean, I had to actually be clicking on it for me to catch it on some of these things. And sometimes you see things like the way that Erebus holds his staff, and you can never unsee
And you ruined my time. You ruined my life. This is why I'm unsubscribing to the podcast. Sole reason.
Well, in terms of the Word Bearers card pool, outside of the Warlords, what would you say are your top 3 cards?
You can lay out your parameters a bit more.
Oh, I was going to say, like, I mean, it doesn't matter, legendary or not, like, just top 3, period.
All right. Quickly, got to give it to Dark Martyr. Nothing better than that is my favorite 7E drop in the game. The art's good. It's a common. It's really easy to get for new players. And oh man, is it perfect. It's instant value, and it's only getting stronger every turn. It's a snowball troop. I love him. I can't play him in all my decks, especially most of my Lorgar ones, because they're usually faster than him. But I do love him. Then I got to give it to... Architect of the Heresy is good. That's a card people fear. When you're fighting a Word Bearer, you know something's going to get bounced or taken. You can't really stop it, except Ward. And I guess for the last one, I want to give it to Argyle Tall, because he's such a good character. His voice lines are great. He's very unique. 2 forms. Yeah, I'll give it to Argyle Tall. Argyle Tall is amazing. I just wish he was more viable. And the little quote-unquote buff they gave him kind of killed the way I played him. So, yeah, I'm not kind of happy with that.
I mean, I gotta go with Destiny's Hand because I'm a giant troll when it comes to Word Bearers. It's only playing with practice.
It's a good option, though.
It's just such a brutal swing, and you see, like, you can almost feel the enemy's soul collapse to chaos when they have, even a board that's been beating on you and is kind of weakened, and then you throw out that Destiny's Hand, and suddenly your board is just overwhelmed with spawn. I mean, even whether or not it works, just seeing 5 chaos spawn pop up on your side is really awesome. It's a really fun card to play. I like them for the times when you can do something really fun. Kind of tied with Sore Backpaw, because it's kind of the same thing where if you can set it up right, and you can't always, maybe not even often, but you just you get such a like seeing all those spawns springing into existence and watching the enemy realize that he has this whole board full of things that he has to deal with now. That is really entertaining. Outside of that, I'll give it to Dagatal bikes. I think that Dagatal bikes are I mean, it's a high utility card. It can get rid of Recon Claw. Recon Claw is, in my opinion, one of the absolute best cards in the entire game. The 1/3 stealth Recon Talon, maybe Recon Claw, one of the two. For
Recon Claw.
Yeah,
I like to call it a crutch because it really is.
Yeah, Daggett Bikes is. Oh wait, or are you talking about Recon Claw?
Oh, Recon Claw. Daggett Bikes, I love it. It's stealth hate. It's a flank. More often than not, I can just play it for the stealth hate and then kill it manually and still have a good old troop left over. 3/2.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's nice.
Absolutely.
And it hard counters the Recon Claw, like you were mentioning, because he sticks.
Yep. It's value. I mean, a 3 flank to begin with is great. 3 flank for 2 energy, 3 attack. Great.
Yeah, can't complain.
And the anti-stealth value, especially in this meta where, you see constant Raven Guards, you see a lot more Night Lords. Everybody, is putting out all those stealthy troops. You flop your little Daggett Bikes out there, take off the stealth, and get a 3 damage flank into them. Sets up for something else. Maybe sets up, for example, a Destiny's Hand. Who knows?
Yeah.
So I got to give it to Daggett Bikes. That I think that card is very strong for them, and it's nice that it's a common as kind of a like I have some factions where I have a lot of cards. Most factions I do not have a ton of cards, so I appreciate when one of the things that made me love Corbacks and Ruinstorm was that they have so many cards that are commons that are super viable. So I love it.
I'll point that out about the Word Bearers quick. Word Bearers, majority of their auto includes or really good cards are common.
Yeah, I have to agree.
And it really feels good to have.
They are a very new player friendly faction in terms of collection and strong cards. Where they are now, I mean, it would be very complicated for a new player to play some of them or play like Erebus. Like there's a learning curve.
Wait.
But
Scuff, are you saying it might confuse players?
It could confuse players. I'm just saying.
Oh my god! That's the last thing we'd ever want.
You pull the Steve Rogers, you're like, I recognize that reference.
If only.
No, but yeah, I mean, like they've got some great commons and some great epics. You've got 2. What would be your third?
I think in there, I mean, I like even with the weakness with Tear, you do have so many opportunities to get cheap things on the board or things that stick after making an attack. That Tear then becomes. You also have troops with decent rally effects. So Tear is one of those things where you can get some kind of repeated value out of it. Sometimes, like you play a rally troop, maybe it sticks on the board with 1 hit point, and then you can tear it off and end up taking off something much, much bigger than it. I think that Tear is for a faction that my struggles when I play the game come against people who are dropping these monster troops, like you playing against like Custodes or something like that get these just giant monster troops, or Salamanders with multiple levels of Survivor on them and the ability to get more. Just being able to pull that right off the board for cheap is potentially, I think that is pretty high up in my list.
All right.
Yeah,
I think I think those are all good. I think the only I've got my own list. I think only one I think is going to match up with what you guys have got is the Dark Martyr.
My issue, Scuff. You gave me so many. You gave me only 3 choices.
Yeah, that's true.
That I love.
They've got some good
I want to
stuff.
put Torgal Squad in there. I want to put Jadamus. I want to put Camille. I want to put Ashen. I'm gonna just do it anyway right now.
Yeah,
I know Ashen Circle was a very, very close one for me as well. I think that's they need that kind of just big damage potential coming out.
Yeah, and I think some of the changes, like you had the Daggett Bikes. Daggett Bikes didn't used to remove stealth. They were just a 3/2 flank. Once they got that added, it was a huge tool for them. The Ashen Circle was a 4/4, but having it be a 5/4 makes a world of a difference. That 1 extra damage comboing with their sacrifice. I'm going to say Dark Martyr, though. Jadamus Squad, I love Jadamus Squad. I hate it when it's played against me. Such a great card. Creating Cultists, he's going to be 2 bodies for 4 energy, and neither of which your opponent wants to survive. I mean, they can deal with it in a variety of ways, but they have to deal with it. It's not something that they can ignore. And, I mean, it's hard for me to toss up between, for the third choice, it's a toss-up for me between Little Soreback Paul, or Torgal Squad. I just think both of those are just really good for what they do. Torgal Squad, If you get a Torgal squad that can stick in some games where they're going to get that battle honor off once, and the first thing they get is Survivor 3, you're off to the races.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's true. That's value.
Yep. So
many of their cards, if they stick, like the biggest threat you can do against a word bearer, or the biggest threat a word bearer poses, is anything they own sticking.
Yeah.
It's just going to snowball.
Yep. 100%.
Yeah, they're either going to use it to do a sacrifice and get a better effect, or they're going to boost it by whatever blessings that they can give, or it's just not something that you want to see happen. The fact is, they can pump out a lot. It's interesting that the faction was one of the first like token factions. It's like, oh, finally we're going to get token factions. Look, they can make cultists and stuff, but then we get the Defenders of Caliban who do it better, and possibly you could argue the Imperial Fist turret deck as an archetype does tokens better than the Word Bearers, but their tokens
You'd likely be right.
Yeah, but the thing with those token decks is that's
totally
just it. It's a different playstyle, and it's just the tokens that are doing the work. Whereas here, the tokens put in work, but there's something you have to deal with, and even then, you can still drop a Dark Martyr, you can still drop a Bargatal squad, which, sometimes I see this, like, it's not 6 health, it's the 4/6 heavy support squad. It deals 4 damage for 2 energy, but that 6 health sometimes, like, man, I can't deal with that, because I just spent, like, 3 tactics dealing with all your fucking cultists, and your Jadimus squad, and your Sethalon squad, and then you drop down a Bargatal squad, and it's frustrating. Or you deal with all that stuff, and then they still, Destiny's Hand and get 3 warp spawns. So, I mean, they put more than just one single token down. They just put down a lot of stuff that you cannot let survive, because it will get marks, it will get blessed, it will get something, and then you'll be even harder pressed to remove it.
I feel like a big giveaway that they're going to be a token faction is how many of their troops have the word squad in their title. It's like more than half of them just have squad attached to
They
it.
got a lot of squads.
They do.
Now,
Squads.
so one thing, I mean, we were talking about what we like, and I think we should kind of mix in a couple topics here with the next step in terms of cards that we'd like to see improved, or the top. Let's say just pick your one card, maybe 2.
One card we want changed?
2 cards we'd like to see changed. But before we do, I feel like what I should mention, because we really haven't, is the lack of interesting cards in the new Galaxy and Flames that help out the Word Bearers.
None of them help them, but they're neat cards. Like, they're very unique. I can't say any help them with a straight fit.
Yeah.
We finally got Terminators. They're a really cool gimmick. I can't play them, though, because it's too reliant on infantry. We're a faction where the infantry I play have 3 HP. For those who don't know, it's 1 energy, I think? Destroy a friendly infantry and deal its HP across the board. That sounds crazy. You have to bring those infantry yourself, because the infantry you have like 3 HP. The ones you're going to produce at most.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just not worth it.
No, and it's still a clunky, speed. Like, unless they get a demon host with the flank, to use that, and that's all random. Yeah, they've got some stuff where it's just kind of odd, like Primordial Calling. Create 2 random cultists in your hands. They cost 1 less for 3 energy. Okay, it's a great way to get more cultists, but
why would I want more cultists?
Right. Like, it doesn't put them on the board. The Korra squad, the rare sacrifice, put in play a righteous zealot. Wow.
It's neat, but again, why would I?
There was a lot of stuff where none of them singly synergize together. None of them seem to support an archetype specifically, or if they do, it seems like it supports it in a way less than what the card pool already had. Like Arthuzra, the Land Raider tank, right? The 7 energy frontline. Wow, it's a frontline vehicle. Cool. Resolution: give +1 health to friendly infantry and Astartes troops.
It needs to put something in play, or else it's useless.
Yeah.
It should have really been Relentless or Resolution either, or put in place some form of infantry.
Yeah,
even if
doubly
it's a righteous
so.
zealot.
Yep.
It's Exactly. When you're giving health to infantry that you're likely using as sacrifices for your other guys.
Right.
Yeah, and if you're infantry, and if you're worried about your Astartes sticking, well, they're usually demon hosts. So they either have survivor or war or some other way to stick, or else they're already dead, and it doesn't matter.
Right. Well, and
It's a word bear away.
what's very interesting too, to go with that, which I was a little surprised with, out of all the new cards, like none of them, like they all do something with infantry or sacking infantry, and maybe the idea was to support the mission. None of them do anything for demons. And if they do something for demons, they would do something for your demon host troops, and therefore you'd have a little bit more synergy with that. But none of them do.
Nope. I'm trying to think. I don't think any even have the word demon in their name.
Mm-mm. Nope. So I mean, yeah. So the Galaxy and Flame cards, and I think we talked about this when we were talking about Wave 3 of the Galaxy and Flames, and collectively, I think generally the Word Bearers faction as a whole was ranked was ranked at the bottom end of all the factions, all the legions that got new cards. The Word Bearers did not win out.
I think they did this maliciously. I think they have something against me. This has got to be it. It's the only way to explain how this entire faction got nothing from GIF.
Not a single thing. And we talked about their mission, obviously. So, yeah. So with that being said,
I get one card change. Can I use this to change the entirety of GIF?
No.
No? Can I change their mission then?
You can change the mission.
The worst part is they use such good art for the mission. They use their Breacher Squad, which is such a cool looking unit. And then it comes out and it does nothing good. It hurts my heart. Every part.
How would you change the mission?
How would I change the mission? It can't be as easy as something to do with Demon Host. It's supposed to promote an alternative playstyle, even though we know that to be factually incorrect with the look at Raven Guard and
Ultramarines.
Yeah. That, as much as Mr. Everguild will say otherwise. Love you, buddy, but I don't believe that. The reward would have to be something like give your troops and play Demon Host, like every time you put one in play. Otherwise, it's not great. Even if they change it now to say, and it has no maintenance, or less maintenance, even if it's like 2 less maintenance or 1 less maintenance, that would help it tremendously. Because as is, I'm going to have to play Book of Lorgard to even use it without killing myself. And I don't want to use Book of Lorgard. Before you go, oh, but now you have a reason to. No, I still don't. I really still don't. Oh, man, it breaks my heart. Yeah, I don't know what to give it for a trigger besides the sacrifice as is. Maybe if they change it to troops die on your turn, that would help it. Or even if it's troops die on your turn without attacking. Because then I can Destiny Hand for it. There's a bunch of different things I can do. And play some new cards that delete troops. But I can't do that when I have to use a troops rally effect. Because there's not enough in the game.
Right. Yeah, you just don't have the opportunities to reliably trigger it.
Yeah, and if I do, I've killed too many of my own troops and did too much bullshit and I've already lost.
Right.
Alright, but that's my nihilism and sadness over. Jack, what do you want to change, buddy?
So I think Raising of Monarchia is... it feels just weird to me that, like, you've drawn like there are conditions where you would not want to play it because you have the troops in your hand already. Mm-hmm. It gives +1/+1 to Astartes in your deck only. Excuse me, 2 seconds. It is not buffing anything on the table. It's not buffing anything in your hand. You may never draw 3/4 of these Astartes that you've buffed, and it costs 4 energy. It does draw you a card, but still 4 energy. Like, this is not a faction that is going super fast and has tons of space. That I don't know. I don't know. Maybe there are probably much better players who can make it work. It seems weird to me. Otherwise, we've already talked about Secret Devotion. I don't want a random 2-cost cultist for every enemy. I want something to do about those other enemies that are making me play things that are relative to the amount of enemies there are. And the Dark Channeling is kind of in the same way. I don't know if I want 3 random Lesser Demons for 6 energy. Even if they cost
good. It used to be good before the Whisper changed, because at least those, you could drop them really quick and you could get a cheap Whisper off of Lorgar.
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now you can't.
Yeah, fair enough.
It's the same reason we used to see the, I think it's also common, where it's give all your troops Demon Host, or is that epic?
Yeah, that's
Honestly,
a common, yeah.
Yeah. You actually saw it, because Lorgar had this quick change. You know what? Fuck it. Screw the mission. Change Lorgar. Something needs to be done about him. I completely back down. Lorgar's ability is useless. It's a worse Ferrus Manus, and Ferrus Manus is already one of the worst Primarchs, if not the worst. And you can't get his Reckoning now. You need 3 demons on the board at 10 energy. Scuff, in what world can that be done without losing?
I know. I was going to say, was he actually so abusive when he? I know, like I saw him played a fair amount. Was he so abusive when he had the 4 energy? Yeah, I guess he could just whispers like on.
His whispers was free 9 out of 10 times. But yes, it's strong. It's one of the best whispers. But it's all he had. They had to give him something else when they killed him.
I mean, maybe split the difference and make it, 3 cost reduction or something like that, or make it cost more to begin with and keep the 4. I don't know.
The easy solution was just nerf it slightly, make it so I need 2 demons on the board, 14 minus 2. That's fine, but change his base ability. Sorry, I cut you off there, Scuff.
Oh, I was just going to say, I mean, the thing with his whole Whisper's transformation and the combo, I mean, I don't mind combo decks, especially when it's a glass cannon like Lorgar, because that's what he was. Yeah. If he got everything off, boom, he's going to transform at a low cost, and, oh man, you're in for a world of hurt if he does. If he doesn't, he doesn't, and he loses. Like, that's it. Like, he does or he doesn't, and even if he does, he could still lose depending on what you're playing. That's what he did. It wasn't... Could he get it most games? Sure, but some games it didn't make a difference, and some games it did. It wasn't anything overpowered. If it was, you would have seen him at High Terra all the time, and instead of people complaining about White Scars, and instead of people complaining about, Raven Guard and Rystan, they'd be complaining about Lorgar. Nobody was, because it's like, yeah, it's annoying, but it's not that annoying when you actually play it a few times. Like, it's pretty easy to deal with. Not a big
Scuff,
deal.
You're forgetting. He was in High Terra as almost always a negative win rate until the very end, where he peaked at 52%, and then they nerfed him.
Just enough.
They saw he broke 50%, and they had too much.
Just enough. The one thing that he had, I think, and I don't know if it was that deck or not that people were starting, it was the Baleful Assembly, where you're just like, all right, here, all my greater demons for free, and I'll transform, and now I don't have to worry about maintenance, and I've got 5 greater demons on the table. Yay! But again, it's a glass can. It's a one-trick pony. That's all he does. If he doesn't do it, he dies. So I didn't really have a problem with it. And, I still think his Whispers is one of the best in the game, and I like the fact that it is what it is. I have no problem with him keeping it that way, but it is a shame when his non-Whispers game without that is not doing him any good, because now you need more demons than you need before, which either means you need a whole bunch of demon hosts in your hand to play on troops in a turn and hope that they survive, or you need to put more demons in your deck. And if you're putting more demons in your deck, you're not playing with the cards that you can put demon hosts on. So you can't use his ability, and so on and so forth. So it just is he is an extra layer on the already eclectic, weird mix that is the Word Bearers, I suppose.
Yeah, and the worst part out of all of that, and I really do mean the worst part of all of it, you have to have 3 demons at 10 energy. And I'm not saying just 10 energy as that's how late in the game. It will actually cost you 10 energy to activate this. That is crazy in this game.
Well, it means that if you have 3 demons on the board, unless they have maintenance 1, you're not going to actually be able to play it at 10 energy, because your maintenance is going to limit your energy. So,
you know what the worst part is, Scuff? I was so heated over what I'm saying, I totally forgot that's a thing. You can't even use it.
That's correct. So it's a big deal.
Oh my god, I'm so angry now. You ruined my day.
I've made you angrier. I've done my job.
And never did job, apparently.
This is the payback from last session. Everyone thought I'd be killed off camera. No, he's just going to torture me.
I'm just torturing you. I'm making you see the Erebus art in new ways. I'm twisting your eyes, making you realize that it's even darker than you ever thought possible. This is
thematically appropriate for the Word Bearers.
That's right. Such is the Book of
You will suffer for your knowledge.
Spread the word.
I'm so sad now.
It's a book of sadness. It's true. You know.
You've ruined everything about the word bear. You even taught me that Erebus is. You're welcome. Art is wrong.
Now you know. Now you know.
And knowing is half the battle.
Erebus, Rebus. It's all the same, Dorn.
I would agree. I mean, for the card I pick, it's a hard toss up for me too between Secret Devotion and Racing Monarchia. Every time I see somebody play Racing Monarchia, I feel bad. I do. I'm like, why'd you do that? Like that's such a waste at 4 energy, especially where you could be playing Jadimus squad or 2 troops. I mean, it just is like such a give up, and you're never going to get the value out of that for that faction. Some factions can. The Ultramarines work fine, but it also buffs their troops in hand when they play, Sons of Ultramar for a rare. You don't get that with the Word Bears. And then Secret Devotion is just like you're getting such a crappy payoff. Even if you get 3 cultists, they're cultists at 2 energy, so they're not even. At the most, they will have 3 health. They'll never have more than 3 health, and most of them will have 2 or 1 health. So they're easily disposed of, and you've given them no other survivor, flank, frontline, anything else to kind of protect them from that. You just put out some bodies on the board, whereas Ornithop's Barge does it better. Destiny's Hand does it the best, which is basically like, why worry about matching what they've got? Just kill what they get and get some warp spawns. Like what?
Yeah, for 1 energy more.
Yeah,
for 1 energy more, and it's dramatically better.
Yeah, so it's just one of those things where I just feel like that card, both those cards, they could do something with them. I don't know what they would do. I think, first off, I would probably just straight up change Secret Devotion to any cultist, which would include some of the newer cultists, which are significantly better. There's not too many of them, but there are a few. And for Racing Monarchia, I don't know. I'd lower the cost and I'd make it actually do something a little differently. I'd make it 3 costs and I'd boost the Astartes in your hand and on the board and draw a card. Mm-hmm. It's simple. It doesn't do anything else, but it's the fire that motivates them at the end of the day. So thematically, it makes sense.
You could even use it to say it pushes them towards fucking Demon Host. You could use it to do something with Demon Host.
That's true. Or give them +1/+1. If they don't have Demon Host, gain Demon Host or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Or not even Demon Host. All it has to do is give it +1 and the Demon tag. I don't even need Demon Host.
Give it 1. Yeah, do 1 for just give it that automatically as the stat. It gives all the Astartes in your hand and in your deck Demon. They don't get Demon Host. They just get Demon. That's just it. So then you've got something for Lorgar. You can play Astartes again. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
The moral of the story is we're just spitballing because we just need something for this faction.
That's it. Well, that's the Word Bears as a whole for the faction. I know they're not. I think any of their, and we really haven't talked about Rom because honestly he is more of a Chaos Warlord, but he's really what carries or pushes the success rate for the Word Bears. I think more than any other Warlords is.
100%.
What's Rom doing? You can't buff these cards because maybe you'll accidentally buff Rom.
They need to rework Rom and Argo. There needs to be an incentive, and you can't touch the Word Bear faction without buffing Rom too much. And I will argue this till the day I die. You
know what? I would be okay with a change to Rom. So leave the Argoltal as he is with the transformation. It costs less and he can transform to Rom. And then he gets the battle honor and all that. But if you start as Rom, instead you've got an additional ability where he's got he doesn't have Berserk, but if he does not attack, then you transform to Argoltal.
Yeah, that could be neat. At least for a turn.
Yeah, just something just to kind of put a little bit of pressure on there, so that if you give him pause, he loses his Romness, and he's got to reattain it. Essentially, I don't know how they would code that, but that might be something.
That might require too many words on the card.
That's
true. That confusing for players.
That might confuse players. I don't know what they could do. Really, I'm going to say this because I will die on this hill. They need to rework the entire Word Bearer card pool at this point. Well, not entirely, but you know what I mean. Space Wolves need to get it first, but I still think Word Bearers need loving because it's been a while. Their last loving was pretty good, but the game was a different game back then.
Mm-hmm.
It was a vastly different game, so I think we're due for it.
And if we're talking about the Horus Heresy, I mean, they're a major part. Like they're a key faction here.
Yeah.
Without them, who would
the Iron Hands? No offense.
Yeah.
Iron Hands players.
Without them, we'll have no nameless guys to just die in droves to 5 loyalist Space Marines.
That's listen. That they serve a purpose. They gotta just endless waves of word bearers of all the legions. That's the one.
Exactly. We talked about at the end of last episode. I'm near certain it was in another after show that it's just a D&D campaign of the Astartes show up, they meet in a bar, and then they kill 1,000 word bearers with the bare hands.
Oh, the Furious Abyss. God damn.
Was that written by Ben Counter?
It was. It was written by Ben Counter. Oh, fuck that guy. I'm not going to retread. Yeah, I'm not going to retread week old rants. But if you want to hear some ranting on Ben Counter, check out last week's episode.
But our good friend Constantine Valdor.
That's right. But yeah, I mean, they're the vanilla bad guys for sure. But
mustache twirling, even.
You know, but when they're written well, and in Horus Heresy especially, even the later characters or the later in the Heresy, they still have got some good characters that are like, wow, like, yeah, he's a depraved cultist who's really bought into the Dark Gods thing, but, you know, there's still some motivation there. Gold. Or he's looking for his ascension. He's like, at this point, you know, I'm on a divine path. Whereas in 40k, 10,000 years later, he's like, yes, we've arrived at this planet, we must sacrifice it to the Dark Gods. That's it. I have no other motivation. That's all I really want to do. Don't talk to me about my faith because I can't really answer it. It's been 10,000 years. This is just what I believe now. It's very, very vague. You need a bad guy. Here I am. I hate the Emperor. Blah blah blah. But
the Dark Gods need their planet and they need it now.
In 30k, there's a little bit more to it. It's a war of faith, and for them, they have to win to prove that it was all worth it. Right, like they found these dark gods. Clearly, these are if these weren't truly the gods, then they wouldn't be able to best the emperor. Right?
Yeah, the imperial truth is a lie. They have to prove it.
Yes, exactly. So I mean, there's a little bit interesting more motivation there, and then on top of that, when you finally get to some of the divergence, because you're like, oh man, Lorgar's such a tool. But is he? Like, because he latches into it and he buys into it hard, and he's that's his role. He's destined that way. That's what the Emperor made him for. But then, somewhere along the way, even he kind of catches wise to, you know, the ambitions of Erebus and Corpheron, and he's like, nah, I'm going to do my own thing. Like, you guys, I'm going to send you out here, and you're not part of the church anymore. You know, you're part of the church, but I don't recognize you. The council does not appoint you the rank of master. The
council does not appoint you to rank of priest. You're being cast out.
This is unfair.
We're just going to move you to a different convent.
Yeah,
it's got to be pretty demoralizing when you get defrocked from a chaos cult.
That's it. Exactly. I was like, you know what? You're not chaosy enough for us. Like, we were hoping a little bit more spiky bits, and you're just not bringing it. You know.
My favorite lore I've ever learned was those spike bits are not demonic mutations. They willingly put those on.
Yeah.
So silly.
I just always remember when the spiky bits was just the upgrade. It's just spiky bits. Like, that's it. Like, what does that mean? Like, well, they put spikes on things. I'm like, yeah, but, I mean, anybody could put spikes on their armor. Like, why is it...
Well, think about this.
They like spikes.
Think about it this way, Scuff. It's the barbarian class in D&D, the subclass...
Oh, God.
Spike armor?
Yeah.
That's what they do. They toss themselves at you. If I'm stabbing you with my body as well.
The Dwarven Ragers with the spike armor, and then they hug you, and then go into, like, convulsions, and so you really get... Listen, let's not talk Forgotten Realms, because I'm going to go on a whole different rant.
I have a fan theory that Lorgar just found like an ancient DVD of Event Horizon and was like, "This is sick. There are so many spikes. Everybody's losing their eyes and they're on fire, and this is awesome. We're going to do this from now on."
They journeyed to hell. Let's go, baby.
That's it. This looks like a fun weekend trip. Gather the boys, Argyle, you're going in first.
Yeah, it's like now. I love you. Tell me how it is. All right, bye.
Some of you will die, but that is a sacrifice I'm willing to make.
Right, that's exactly the speech he gave him. Was it's kind of
clapped him on the back and went, "Go serve chaos, my son. Don't ask what chaos is. Though. Step through the portal."
He's all sad about it. He's like, "Oh, it's like I'm sorry. I don't have to go. I can stay." No, it's a sacrifice you must make. I understand. No, but I really don't want. No, please. I understand. It's hard for me too, but this is something that you.
This hurts me more than it hurts you,
right.
Right. Go be possessed.
Well, as far as the faction goes, as they are now, on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you guys rate the Word Bearers?
Oh, man. I'm going to give them a 10 out of 10 simply because I love them. But in reality, I'm hovering around like a 6 or a 7. I know that's 2 6s in a row. So I'll give it more like a 6.5, or more towards a 7 than a 6, but you get the point. They're not great.
Like, meme-wise and like the capability to pull off. Like, I never played a Miracle deck when I played Hearthstone, but I always admired the people who played these ridiculous Miracle Rogue builds that could, just do absolutely nothing, it seemed like, for the entire game and then pump out 25 damage. It's very frustrating to play against, but hey, I mean, you can't let them build. For the Word Bearers, I'm a sucker for those big combos. I like the meme potential. That makes me want to rate them very highly. I think competitively outside of Realm, they are in a
non-existent,
very bad place. They're in a very bad place, and I don't play at a high level. I mean, I hover right around the Terra line, like sometimes up around the 3000s, but not like high Terra, none of that stuff. And even there, I don't see Word Bearers, and when I rarely see them, they get tooled on. I don't think I've ever seen an Erebus in even like in low Terra. I'm sure there are some out there, but you rarely see.
He was actually pretty popular before the drilling site changed, because you used to be able to use your ability and drilling site and then still get your free turn.
Mm-hmm. I gotta say, even then, I feel like I didn't see many, but it was also because there were also some big, like it was when Solar Auxilia got really big and the Knights and stuff like that. I came in around those times.
Well, they were him and Zardu were tied at the most popular before Lorgar got his changes. The issue became, though, the most popular of a bad faction is still a bad faction.
Sure.
So you didn't see him often. Zardu did peak, though, positive. He was almost always positive on win rate. Shame that he disappeared forever.
Yeah, I don't know. I want to rate them as fun to play. I've had fun playing them, but
they're a blast.
I mean, because they're super thematic and they feel that way. They're many of the factions are thematic, but these ones definitely have got extra feel to it. But it is disjointed, and some stuff doesn't work so much where it's just not even including. And so, I mean, when you take a look at the card pool, and you can easily write off, 10 cards that aren't even worth playing because they don't do anything for what you want to do or just are not great, then it's not in a good spot. I don't want to rate it too low, but I feel like a 4 for me is probably about, like, they've got good cards, but I think I'm rating them low because they're just consigned to the same cards, and even then, with those same best cards that the faction has, they're not really doing anything.
Oh, and I 100% agree with you. I rate them high out of my love for them. That's it.
And that's okay.
They're so unique. Like, Demon Host is such a cool mechanic. It changes the card. It changes the tag of troops. That's not common.
Yeah.
Actually, now that I think about it, is there any other card in the game that physically changes the tag on a troop? Like an infantry to a Astartes or something like that?
Aside from the 4 marks of chaos training them into a demon, I don't think so.
I wouldn't count that one because it changes the card completely.
Right, it changes it to a different card, yeah.
I think Demon Host is the only example, and that's cool.
Like, I don't know why there's not a card that, even though it could look stupid, like Gene Seed Implantation, change an infantry into an Astarte. It would be weird, but weird's good in a card game sometimes.
Well,
But that's a different one for another day.
when you're not playing Legions, what do you do?
So I mean, I like a pretty wide variety of games. Been playing a lot of Fall Guys actually lately.
I used to play
Enjoy
that
the
for
hell
a
out
bit
of
when it came
Fall
out.
Guys. It's a
fun
good
game.
game. It is nice, lighthearted fun. Doesn't require a whole lot of thought. I am in school right now, so in the middle of changing careers. So going to school and studying. I like video poker a lot because I like randomness, and I also like games of skill. And video poker is both of those things. And other than that, I read, hang out with my cat, like to cook, just
I respect it.
that sort of thing.
How about you, Axel?
Just a fellow gambling man. That's a lie.
I
Comes from Vegas but hates the gambling, or rather
true.
doesn't do it.
mean, I'll say this. I
betrayed your
don't
people.
I don't like high stakes. God knows I don't like high stakes gambling, and don't have the money for it, and wouldn't do it even if I did because it feels like a gigantic waste. But I like the
Well,
trying to
I really
remember
enjoy it.
complicated combos of things, and
that's
Deuces
really
Wild
cool.
video poker gives you the I'm not plugging gambling people on the channel. If you are or if you are trying to take life advice from me, you're just making yourself you're putting yourself in a bad place. No, I'm kidding. But I like the complexity of the game, and I think it has you can pretty much play it as close to even odds as you could possibly get and entertain yourself for a while. And so it's on my bucket list to hit the Royal Flush. Never done it.
Ah,
That's fair.
the Royal Flush, man. Yeah,
I've done it once, and now my friends refuse to play poker with me ever again.
I had
cleared the table.
my aunt hit the Royal Flush one time at the so again, I'm from Las Vegas, and for those who don't know, there are slot machines everywhere. Like at the grocery stores have a little casino slot machine area typically. So people would often, especially older people, would like cash their checks, buy their groceries before they do, hit the slots, and that's what they would do. My aunt hit the Royal Flush one time at the grocery store, but she didn't maximum bet. And yes, it was just it's like you always maximum bet, like
you have to.
Yes, so she won like $10. She could have won like 5,000. It was just like it's like,
oh my god! And I thought that the Erebus thing was hurting my soul.
Yeah, so that's
Erebus.
I think I was like 9 or 10 when that happened, and she came home and she's like, "Oh, I hit the Royal Flush," and they're like, "Oh, what'd you wish?" Like, "Well, I didn't maximum bet," and like everybody's like, "What?" And I was like, "Well, this is a life lesson for Vegas. Always maximum bet. That's something you got to do."
The odds are not just based on the randomness; they are based on the payout tables.
Yes, and the big thing is, just to kind of sidebar into a little bit more, gambling advice and or don't gamble advice. Because if you have a problem, if you have a gambling addiction, you certainly shouldn't be listening to people tell you about fun things.
To be fair, playing on RNG-based card game with a gambling addiction and loot boxes probably ain't helping you either.
Trap decks are 100% gambling, so if you have an addiction to trap decks, please seek help. But
please,
we're
here for you.
Yes, but there are some some of the slots, especially now, like the pennies and nickel slots. Those are such a scam. Like, don't max bet on those. Don't even play those. Because you're like, oh, like, you get like 30 lines. And then, like, next thing you know, the penny slot, you're spending $5 a pull because you've max bet on like 30 lines and each of those lines, like, and then the payoff still doesn't match it. It's a penny slot, but that's how they get you. So just don't do it. Like, if you're going to play slots, go to the classic 3 bars, 3 lines, and max bet that. That's how you roll. That's how you do it. Play the mega bucks. That's the slot machine. Don't play any other slots. And maybe the diamonds. Hearts and diamonds is not bad. But that's it.
Hey guys, we're the HHL podcast.
That's right. Let's talk about slots. Deck slots, baby. That's what I'm plugging.
Deck slots. That's it. Nice transition.
We moved around. We're just gonna skip over what I'm doing. I'm doing the same old. I'm still doing a D&D campaign that's on fire constantly.
Is your D&D campaign sponsored by Raid Shadow Legends?
God, I wish.
That's what we need. Still gotta look for a sponsor. If anybody out there legit wants to sponsor
Casper
the
Mattress.
But yes, I'm plugging deck slots, baby, because we're gonna need them. We're gonna need them hot and hard. And it's gonna come. Fafnir Rand is coming, and I don't have a place to put him, and it makes me sad.
And he's different than we wanted, and it's weird.
That as of today, as of the date of this recording, Fafnir Rand's ability has changed. It has taken us unawares. We are shocked and awed, and disappointed severely.
We are rioting, all of us, in unison.
I mean, to be fair,
if it's in unison, it can't be a riot.
It's the smart move.
How dare you say something smart to me?
Yeah, I don't hate Everguild for the nerf. I think if they would have let him hit the shop as he is now, it would be a bad decision.
You get as much riot.
Yeah, it's better to nerf him severely, and then they can always go back and rebuff him or rework him. But he was never going to be what he is. It's a shame that his current ability, as it is as of today, no longer has anything to do with discarding a card, because that was kind of a unique thing, But what are you gonna do?
It's cool though that it lasts till next turn, so I can at least kill Angron. And you can't do shit about it.
It can be a defensive tool, or against knights or something like that. If you're playing that game, Axel, you got anything to plug?
Never thought of that.
I'm gonna do the usual. I'm gonna plug my boy Dorn. Do you know who he is by this point? If you're a longtime viewer, that's Dorn Stash. He comes on sometimes. Great guy. Drew Lee Clark on Instagram. He does commission. He does great art. He drew my crab bearer profile picture and my old crab pirate hat when I used to use. They'll kind of do. If you want art, hit him up. If you just want to admire his art, also hit him up.
All right. Dorn Stash will be on next week, hopefully with Iron Duke. We'll be talking the Salamander Spotlight. Finally, we've gotten to the tail end of Legion of Stars. We still got a couple more to go. Salamanders, Raven Guard, Ultramarines. We're getting, or not Ultramarines, Alpha Legion. That's what I meant. I mean, they're Ultramarines. They're everywhere. They're the Alpha Legion.
They're the same. They're basically the same person. Yeah. Group. Person.
But, so we're going to talk with Dorn Stash, Iron Duke next week. So, so there you go. How about you, Automatic Jack? Anything to plug?
I do have a YouTube channel. I started off a YouTube channel trying to get more people into Legions, because I love the game. I thought it'd be interesting. I figure I play the game a lot anyway. Might as well record the games, let other people see them. And I've gotten some phenomenal comments from some viewers that have really helped me improve my play. Improve my deck building. So it's Automatic Jack on YouTube. I have a quick one, if you don't mind. I'm sorry to take it. I'm not trying to do a double plug here, but this is more of a plea. Mr. Everguild, if you're listening, for the love of God and all that's holy, when the game loads, you get boarding the Thunderhawk and then gearing up for combat. Can you please switch those two? Because every time I see it, I just imagine all these naked, well, not naked Space Marines. I
want to imagine fully naked.
I've already said it. Robed Space Marines walking into the Thunderhawk with their big duffel bags of gear. 3 of them are Alfarius, so they've all got 6 different duffel bags worth of armor because they might have to change factions during the fight. It's just all completely confused. And then if the game hangs, it's sparring in the training cages, it makes even less sense. Please, can we just change the order?
Yeah. The order of events does need to be changed. I've never once considered it, but it is weird.
It's very strange.
You've ruined my day by informing me of this.
Little things. These.
Doing this podcast just ruins my day because I keep getting told things I didn't need to know.
I'm sorry.
I could have lived in happy ignorance.
That's what we do. We spread the truth. We open eyes. We give people the red pill.
We bear the word.
That's it. That's it.
God damn it. We're somehow tied back into it.
It all comes together in the end.
You said it couldn't be done.
Well, Automatic Jack, thank you for taking the time and being available tonight to do the call, talk about the word bearers.
Guys, thanks so much for having me. This was awesome. Long time fan.
Absolutely.
Hey, it's always good to get people on who want to be on.
Yeah, and especially, you've got a new content channel to promote, so always happy to talk with content makers and get people aware of who's out there putting out stuff, and we got a lot of players in the game, so just anytime we get to talk to new ones, I'm always excited for it. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's always nice.
I appreciate you guys and the whole community. Great community.
Yeah,
it is.
All right, well, that is it for me, guys. We will, like I said, be back next week. We'll be talking about the salamanders.
That we will.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Later on.
It ends here.
This has been another episode of the Warp Chatter Podcast. Thank you for listening.
I can't help but appreciate your talents. It was inspiring.
I need some wood.